So I've always believed that you have to support the player or the individual in the contract situation. And then obviously as the head coach, you're working for the clubs. I think, first off, I think what you learn as a head coach and it's through trial and error, I know it was for me personally, is you have to separate the business component for the players and even the coaches. We went through it as a coaching staff in 24, but
Yeah.
Micah Parsons was in a contract situation, and we all had contracts, and everybody's situation is personal to them and with the club. You've been through it, and so you have to respect that and have a high understanding, because until you go through it, it's difficult. So let's not make it more difficult with opinions on both sides of the spectrum. I've always felt so. I've always believed that you have to support the player or the individual in the contract situation. And then obviously as the head coach, you're working for the club. So I think it's just a position you got to be, operate with clarity. So with that being said, I was glad to see Micah Parsons get the contract, whether it was in Dallas or in Green Bay. And obviously you had some communication, with the Green Bay people about him. So, because he deserved that contract. I mean, he has earned that. I mean, the
Yeah.
way he's performed, the first 4 years of his career, he has earned that contract. So on a personal level, as a head coach, I mean, you always want to see your players get paid. Particularly, when you have to wait and earn it and they go through, because it is difficult. It's difficult on them. It's difficult on their families, more importantly. So I was happy to see that. But the reality of it is, for the Dallas Cowboys, it really, Mason, has put them in the realm that I was always preaching and what we lived in with Ted. I mean, draft and develop. I mean, that our era together
Yeah.
is the blueprint. I mean, it's from '06, all the way through. I mean, that was something that we just really committed to. Now we had some great free agents in Charles Woodson and Julius Peppers and some of those guys that we sprinkled in. But the core of our football team that moved the needle on our roster every year was those guys that are already there, fighting to get those second contracts, and you build it. And really, Dallas is in that mindset right now. So I think the roster is as healthy as it's ever been from a financial standpoint. There's been more second contracts done in Dallas in the last 2 months than there was in prior years. So their
Good
draft
point.
and develop, mechanism has increased, which I think will help them continue to grow, because that's a young football team. I don't think people realize how young that team is.